You think you've seen off-road? Well, wait until you see this off-road, provided by yet another Russian channel whose footage we're using today with a massive amount of gratitude. Спасибо, ребята. It's from the channel by someone named Vitalson. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. So the link to the original content is in the description below, with once again my massive gratitude to people who have put these cars through such an insane off-roading adventure. Why am I bringing this to you? Because in all honesty, my friends, I have never seen anything like this. There is a very good chance that my English-speaking audience has never seen anything like it. And as I always say in the description of this video, this channel is all about cars and people who love cars. That's what unites us on a global kind of scale here, and this channel has never been associated on any particular, affiliated with any political topics. So in this particular case, спасибо, Витальсон, спасибо, ребята. Хочется донести самое лучшее от вас до англоязычной публики. Спасибо еще раз. So that is my thanks to the original creators, and I think the footage and the thumbnail speak for themselves. We're going to be talking about a rather brutal, again, I've never seen anything like it, rather brutal test that Vitalson and his team have put Tank 300 that they got from a dealership. It's not their car. You will hear from my subsequent commentary behind the scenes there about the fact that they are a bit careful with the car. That is careful, by the way. You were like, Dmitry, is this careful? Yeah, that is apparently careful. You will see how they're trying to descend into some mud pits where they will be stuck a little bit later. And that is them trying to be careful and not crack the bumpers and that kind of stuff. Spoiler alert, the car performs amazingly, and they are very transparently comparing it to Land Cruiser Prado. They're comparing it to 3 different 4x4 LADA Nivas in this particular case, which will also be very interesting for you to see in terms of what our Russians they're driving on. And I will compare these LADA Nivas very, very loosely, very, very high level to Suzuki Jimny, because it is bare bones amazing 4x4 vehicle that we probably will never see in Australia, but that's a topic neither here or there. So yes, just enjoy this craziness. Take a look at how Tank 300 behaves on the off-road. I have done my best to try and translate the bits and pieces of their excited screaming there in the background of what insights they can give us, in addition to just general excitement of seeing just how amazingly well Tank 300 performs in real mud pits, real hill climbs, real kind of stuff that honestly I've never seen anything like it. Let me know in the comments down below if you have. So if we trust our Russian friends here, tongue-in-cheek of course, what is the main thing about riding in a tank? Courage, you might think? No, it is to protect your head and not to poo your pants, according to them anyway. Welcome to the crude humor edition, my friends. Give the video a like if you like crude humor, or bye-bye forever if you don't. Thanks for watching. They are sharing kind of proper tank driver helmets here for everyone's viewing pleasure, and I certainly appreciate that a bit of a splash of humor in this particular case. Tank 300 is about to go through a very, very intense test. If you have been paying attention to the footage provided in the background, it is going to be really, really full on, and I still believe that this is probably one of the very, very few really honest, straight to the point, full on experiences for us to witness. I certainly had fun watching it, and I hope you will enjoy it too. So we are effectively comparing here performance of Tank 300 in some Russian wilderness, mud pits and so on, against Mercedes G-Wagen, another slightly more city version of a Mercedes that you might have seen also in Australian streets. I wouldn't be trying to pretend that I know accurately the model shown here. We have 3 actually different LADA Niva models. If you never heard of the car, don't worry about it because you will never see it in Australia, but later in the video I will make a comparison, loose comparison of this car to Suzuki Jimny. It's kinda, imagine this kind of much cheaper, much more bare bones, but a very, very, very capable off-roader that they use in Russia there. And we have here an owner, a very proud owner of Land Cruiser Prado 120 model.
Uncle Sergey, they're going to be referring to him throughout this video. And Vitaly here, our host, he has obviously very good relationship with all of these people who he communicates with throughout the video. And I just have to adaptively tell you that he first sort of kind of jokes with Uncle Sergey and says, well, would you like a Chinese off-road? And Uncle Sergey says, no, only Japanese are making reliable off-roaders. But spoiler alert, as you see throughout the video, Uncle Sergey warms up towards Tank 300 massively. Yes. So the original narrative, in case you feel like you're missing out something, is all unscripted shouting at the top of their lungs because they're all excited. So an experienced older off-road car owner here, Sergey, expressed that he has initial doubts specifically in terms of how long will this shiny new toy of Tank 300 be able to maintain its off-road capabilities versus something time proven, as in this case, in his case, it's a fairly well preserved Land Cruiser Prado 120, but at the same time, apparently, as he reveals a bit further in the video, it has well over 100,000 kilometers on the clock. So he kind of at first is a bit cynical and sort of jokey about it and says, well, let's see how your Tank 300 goes after, I don't know, 5 years of this madness. So compared to LADA Niva, jumping here a little bit from one to another, apparently in this particular segment, in this particular segment of the video, Niva couldn't push through what Tank 300 has eaten for breakfast. We're talking about this muddy, sort of almost a bit swampy, very sinking, soft mud terrain, which is flat terrain. So apparently here Niva was not doing as well, but we will see a little bit later in the video that certain segments, certain terrain, Niva does cross as well as Tank 300, or even with such ease as we have seen in some of the recent videos from me, translated from the other channel, about Suzuki Jimny off-road test. In the original footage I could hear also constant bleeping of the various GWM Tank off-road warnings, driver assistance systems. Yeah, that would probably annoy me, let's be honest here, but again we're looking at rather extreme driving, which is why you can understand that if they need those assistants like diff-lock and whatnot, then I suppose you just also have to deal with a bit of bleeping here and there. Yeah, they are laughing and basically saying that it almost feels a bit humiliating for other cars in these same off-road test conditions, just how easily Tank 300 pushes through any of the obstacles that they throw at it compared to the other cars. And the driver of LADA Niva apparently got really upset how he got stuck and Tank 300 didn't. Ah, there. Vitaly here comments that he didn't want to prepare for the drive. He was given all the instruction manuals and how to manage the diff lock and all the other. Obviously he's an experienced off-roader overall, but he didn't want to prepare properly to read all these Tank 300 instruction manuals to keep the emotions as raw as possible, as he says here, which he clearly succeeded at, because honestly, my friends, if you heard the original footage of him shouting while he's driving this Tank 300 from inside of the cabin, outside of the cabin, he's clearly excited. So the original video honestly is 99% emotion and maybe 1% of useful insights and assertions that he's making, and I'm trying to extract it for you. Apparently Toyota Prado is making through a lot of these mud pits too, also thanks to very experienced Uncle Sergey driver who has been doing it for many years, and he is a very experienced off-roader, most experienced one, as I've gathered through watching this footage and listening to the original commentary. But at the same time, I don't know if we can compare it completely one-to-one, simply because some of the other vehicles, such as those Nivas, they have off-road tires, while both Tank 300 and Toyota Prado probably have similar tires that are, I'm not going to say for city driving, but they certainly are not particularly, elevated, lifted, or have a massive tread on them. Yeah, excitement is real, my friends, and the call-outs that we're hearing here from the people present in this terrain massacre, let's call it, are, oh, come on, Japanese cars are supposed to be better. What's going on with this tank pushing past Land Cruiser Prado? Yes, they're all making fun of that, you know, in the original video it is very, very fun to watch, kind of hearing these call outs, just not just to prove dominance of Tank 300, but to show it honestly against other proven off-roaders, time-proven off-roaders, such as Toyota Prado, such as LADA Niva on the territory of Russia, without even a slightest tint or of dependency on the money that the sponsors of this project might have thrown into it. They got this car, Tank 300, from apparently a dealership in Moscow, but that's about it. They definitely not, I can assure you, I did not get a sense that this is a paid type of promotion. Absolutely nothing. They're just having fun here and honestly pedal to the metal, kind of trying to push the car through its paces. I've never seen anything like it. We also see here front and center this kind of unfakeable attempt to also make fun of Uncle Sergey, and we're seeing a social experiment of converting him from a fan of Toyota Land Cruiser Prado into someone who towards the end becomes very seriously considering, not admitting, but considering to maybe take Tank 300 a lot more seriously. This is where I would like to compliment once again the Russian LADA Niva, that again we will never see in Australia, but for all of you, my lurking snobs in the background and comments, these cars cost almost nothing compared to both Tank 300 and Land Cruiser Prado, let's say. But these cars still push through this most horrible mud, of course lifted and tuned for off-roading, such as having off-road tires, 32-inch and 33-inch, as we find out later. But I was honestly, quite honestly impressed and feeling almost nostalgic seeing the two LADA Nivas in action side by side with the other cars, as they performed very well. My dad used to have one of these older models, not the later one, but the older one, many years ago. After seeing Tank 300 in action, Uncle Sergey even looked at the interior, saying, "Oh, that's interesting. Oh, what does that do? Oh, what does this do?" So that is what I have to treat here as someone very experienced and very set in his own ways. If that impresses a man like this, take it for what it is. That is the only proof that you and I need, my friends, that this car is taken seriously by those kind of people. Okay, these people don't buy dingy crap cars. You have to understand, one plastic creak or bad experience with the first muddy puddle that Peppa Pig would kill for, and they wouldn't be interested. So what's exciting here? Well, the evident fact that Tank 300 is holding its image and value under this insane skepticism and scrutiny, you have to call it, under these crazy off-road conditions that a lot of vehicles would probably just fall apart under, you know. Vitaly also says that getting out of the vehicle, for what it's worth, with very dirty boots, big boots, is quite comfortable geometry wise, just how the car, you know, how the step and how the edge of the car is constructed, for what it's worth. Now they found slightly different location where we have those two old model the LADA Nivas. They are turbo petrol engine models, by the way. I don't know the liters of the engine, the milliliters of how big the engines are, but they're not massive. I'd say they're probably power-wise, they're comparable to Suzuki Jimny, I would say. Correct me in the comments down below. I always welcome any non-trollish comments. Yeah, and then we also see bits of footage of this Russian buggy, they refer to it, off-road buggy, which kind of looks like, do you know that Sharp vehicle or something that is called Sharp or something? I'm not quite sure. I can't be bothered right now doing the research, but it certainly looks like that real off-roader that simply cannot sink by definition. Vitaly also says, oh my god, take a look at how much mud is everywhere, but Tank is still just pushing through like it's nothing, simply because when we get a Chinese vehicle and sort of, you know, brought up on this notion of the fact that Chinese vehicles or other products are cheap and everything will be creaking and everything will stop working under the slightest sneeze, well, evidently it doesn't. They are complimenting Mercedes G-Wagen quite a lot here because it clearly pushes through very hard conditions as well. They're almost comparing it in terms of its capabilities to Tank 300. However, we all understand that the price category of Tank 300 versus Mercedes G-Wagen that we absolutely can see in Australia, and I love the look of it, but it's it's kind of like comparing sky and earth if we use crudely translated Russian metaphor. It is so far apart and so different that it's not even funny. And if you're getting similar capabilities, off-road capabilities in this particular case of Tank 300, well, the decision is made for you, really. So Mercedes here definitely pushes like a champion, but that more city version, not the G-Wagen boxy one, but the other one, clearly does not have the wheels and tires made for off-road. So we have to just slow clap here in the background and just acknowledge the fact that it's a very capable vehicle that's a lot more expensive. Now they are once again changing location to another mud pit that Vitaly even called a complete swamp, with a rather steep hill on the other side that they will now spend quite a bit of time climbing it on this little track. I'm not even gonna call it a mud road, because it certainly is not there. It looks more like a trench that gets only deeper and harder to climb after the first vehicle has, you know, been trying to ascend. Yeah, and we'll see how they go here. At one point on the way there, so they didn't get there yet, but at one point, even driving rather carefully, they sort of descended and sunk into a trench where Tank 300 hit literally the bottom, quite literally, where the wheels lost the grip with the terrain, and it was impossible to just do anything, and it would be impossible for the vehicle to get out of that on its own. That's where a bunch of funny smartasses tried to say something along the lines of, "Oh, see, your sucky Tank 300 can't do anything here," and he was like, "Well, come on guys, bring your cars here and try to get through this yourselves." And they do show, I don't know, Prado go around, and firstly, because Uncle Sergey is an amazing off-roader, and secondly, because they are not really going through the same mud pit. They're going around it, so it's not a one-to-one comparison. And yet again, Mercedes G-Wagen is shown as an absolute champion here as well. As far as the vehicle is concerned, I do love it. I just know that it's exorbitantly priced, at least in Australia, and I'm sure it's in Russia as well. When they got out, Vitaly looked here at the car, firstly being concerned about the bumper and the plastics, like bumpers, fenders, and that kind of stuff. And while everything is covered with mud, it's very hard to tell, but he said, "Oh, seems to be everything is in place." So he was once again very impressed with the quality of the assembly, with the assembly value of this. And now on to the long expected hill climb. He tried first in the 4L driving mode and could not fully pull through as the wheels lost the grip at one point. Then I think he was just playing unscientifically, switching between different modes there, and at one point he did climb the whole hill with no problems, as he says. Tank 300 climbed it fine, completely fine. And then we see other vehicles, Nivas, Land Cruiser Prado, trying to climb the same hill in the similar conditions, other than the trench, I suppose, becoming deeper after the wheels of the other cars were digging it, essentially, trying to ascend before. It honestly makes me feel jealous, as who wouldn't want to spend a Sunday afternoon doing this crazy off-roading instead of translating someone else's video here, right? Anyway, moving on. All in all, summary here is that Tank 300 is still dealing with all of the weird sort of full-on Russian off-road brutal conditions like a real champion. Vitaly says that he is even self-conscious that he is sounding a bit too positive, and it all becomes towards the end of the video like an ad for Tank 300. Same with me here, Dmitry, translating this, but I am just translating honest feedback, and I'm commenting on what I see, and it seems to be front and center, absolutely not exaggerated. And same with Vitaly here, who says, look, it is not my goal to advertise this, like I would have gotten content out of this whether I criticized it or said something positive in it, and that's fair enough. But he's very impressed, which is super reassuring for me and for anyone else who in Australia is waiting for the release of Tank 300 and considers to perhaps get your hands on it. So again, in the background we're seeing here Mercedes G-Wagen climbing the hill, and first time not quite. The problem again appears that the trench becomes bigger, and also it demonstrates to us how crazy Russians are just climbing the hill while it's obviously not doable anymore, but they still throw their cars at it. And I have to once again thank them for amazing entertainment value provided for now also English speaking audiences. So all in all, what do I think about Tank 300? I want it. badly, not because I'm an avid off-roader, far from it, but because seeing a vehicle push through such conditions, not breaking a sweat and performing so well in the hands of people. Some people are cynically predisposed, some people are excitable fans and kind of off-roading enthusiasts, but they are calling it for what it is. I can assure you, it is very reassuring not hearing it just from some outlet that is paid, that is sponsored. Yeah, so they are not sponsored, I am not sponsored, and let's take it for what it is. The weakest point of Tank 300, according to Vitaly, again, is that plastic cover on the front bumper with some holes for fitting screws. Nothing was wrong with it, nothing happened to it, but apparently he was a bit tentative with it, and that's just his commentary that I'm translating. So he was a bit concerned that there would be some loss of integrity and maybe some creaking or some brakes, but it all ended up fine. That's it, my friends, for today. I hope you enjoyed another translated and adapted Russian video here from the test of Tank 300 versus a lot of other vehicles, including Land Cruiser Prado, LADA Nivas, and a bunch of other unidentifiable riding objects. If you like this video, your best bet to give me is to give me a like, to tell me to support this kind of videos and tell me that you enjoy this type of content and you want more of it. But the absolute best, the ultimate thing that I would always love and encourage is to comment below. Don't be shy. Say a few words, say hello, I'll say hello back in Russian or in English, as long as you are keeping politics out of it and remain mutually respectful, even if you have an opinion that differs from Vitaly's or my own in this particular case. But thank you very much for watching, and subscribe for more. Videos are coming to you at the rate of one video per week at the very least these days. Goodbye for now.